In the digital age, gambling has found a new home, online. With just a few clicks, anyone can access a virtual casino, placing bets from the comfort of their own home. But beneath the glitz and glamour of online gambling lies a darker reality. Online gambling sites have found ways to bypass laws and policies meant to protect individuals with gambling addictions. These laws are designed to prevent problem gamblers from making excessive deposits and sinking deeper into financial and personal troubles. But how do these sites circumvent such crucial safeguards? Every transaction made with a credit or debit card is assigned a merchant code that indicates the type of purchase. For gambling-related transactions, the code is typically 7995. This code allows banks and credit card companies to track and limit spending on gambling, providing a vital tool for controlling addictive behaviors. However, online casinos have discovered a way to disguise these transactions. Instead of using the 7995 code, they reclassify deposits as purchases from unrelated types of businesses. For instance, a deposit to an online casino might appear as a payment for jewelry, clothes, video games, or education, just to name a few. By doing this, they assign merchant codes that are completely unrelated to gambling. This manipulation allows the transactions to slip through the cracks of regulatory oversight, and it's also known as transaction laundering. This transaction was made to a casino, but the merchant name is nothing close to the gambling website. It was confirmed by the card issuer that the merchant is listed as a store that sells watches and jewelry. But is any of this legal? The short answer is no. And here are a few reasons why companies would miscode transactions. Different merchant codes can result in varying interchange fees. Some businesses might miscode transactions to fall under a category with lower fees, which constitutes fee evasion. Incorrect merchant codes can affect tax reporting and collection, leading to potential tax evasion issues. Misleading customers about the nature of the business or the type of transaction can result in consumer fraud. Merchant codes are used for compliance with regulatory requirements, including anti-money laundering laws and sanctions programs. Incorrect coding can lead to violations of these regulations. However, in this case, the casino uses third-party payment providers that relay the transaction to a merchant who appears to sell something else, making the transaction look legitimate on paper. It's unclear how long online gambling sites have been doing this, but in 2023, discussions began on online forums about gambling websites using incorrect merchant codes on card transactions. Early on, players who fell victim to these merchant code manipulations were able to contact some of the merchants and receive refunds for the transactions. Note that the merchants were the ones who issued the refunds, not the gambling sites. This continued for a couple of months, with people who deposited money into casinos getting their money back. But why? Refunds aren't usually given out without a reason. Those behind this practice likely knew they were doing something wrong and tried to avoid problems by issuing refunds. In addition to the refunds, gambling sites have been putting these users on a so-called fraud list, effectively closing their accounts on many gambling platforms and preventing them from creating verified accounts on other sites they haven't previously registered with. It's interesting how gambling addicts can't request full self-exclusions on multiple gambling sites at once and are told to self-exclude at each site individually. Yet these sites can suddenly implement full cross-site bans when users create problems for them. Today, merchants rarely issue refunds, and many don't even respond to emails. But were these refunds justly claimed? After all, people logged into gambling sites, made deposits, received funds in their gambling accounts, and likely lost the money. It's complicated, with policies and laws varying between countries. However, many nations have similar approaches. Transactions coded as 7995 should either be completely blocked or have reasonable limits per day, week, or month. This consumer protection exists for a reason, and using the incorrect merchant code to bypass it is a manipulation of legal safeguards in many countries. When it comes to the right to receive refunds, it's a gray area. But should gambling sites be punished, fined, or even shut down for their practices? Absolutely, without question. There are about 12 organizations that work together to ensure that gambling sites operate within legal frameworks, maintain fairness, protect customers, and uphold the integrity of the gambling industry. But why is no action being taken on the miscoding issue, or why is it taking so long? Several reasons could explain this, but let's focus on the most likely ones. Financial institutions such as banks are often the first line of defense against merchant miscoding. They have systems in place to detect anomalies in transactions. However, their focus might be elsewhere, since these transactions appear legitimate on paper. There might be gaps or loopholes in the existing regulations that allow gambling sites to exploit the system without facing immediate consequences. Regulatory bodies may have limited resources and often prioritize more visible issues, such as preventing gambling addiction, ensuring fair play, and combating money laundering over the specifics of transaction coding. Identifying and tracking incorrect merchant codes requires a deep understanding of financial transaction systems and collaboration between gambling regulators and financial authorities. This level of cooperation can be challenging to achieve consistently. Gambling sites often operate across multiple jurisdictions, leading to jurisdictional fragmentation and gaps in oversight. Lastly, the miscoding issue might not be widely known or reported enough to prompt immediate regulatory action. In conclusion, while online gambling offers convenience and entertainment, it also poses significant risks due to practices like transaction laundering. These tactics allow gambling sites to evade legal safeguards, putting vulnerable individuals at risk. Addressing these issues requires greater collaboration among financial institutions, regulators, and policymakers to close loopholes and enforce proper transaction coding. Enhancing oversight and regulatory measures is essential to ensure the integrity of the gambling industry and protect consumers from financial harm.